BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker,
Play BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
and on your radio.
The sound of Cambridgeshire is
BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
It's 7 o'clock, and this is Seb Noble with the latest BBC News for Cambridgeshire. A group of Cambridge graduates have created an app to help students there feel safe at night. It's called Flare and alerts family and friends if someone feels in danger. Lydia Dowling-Ranera has more.
Flare lets users set up a message which can include things like where you're going and who you're meeting, and can be activated from your phone's lock screen. If users feel unsafe, they can instantly send the emergency message to chosen contacts. The app has been rolled out across the country, and students say it's reassuring to have to hand.
Radio Cambridgeshire.
It's just gone 7:10. Now, a group of graduates from Cambridge have made an app that alerts your friends and family if you're feeling unsafe. It's been designed to help students feel safer, especially out and about after dark. One of the creators is here, Gabriel Brown. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming in. Where did this idea come from, Gabriel?
Well, it's been a long time in the making. It's been a really exciting journey. My co-founders Morgan and Gino, came together originally about 2 years ago to build a social network for activists called Core. So a very different sort of thing. We just joined university, and we were sort of incredibly frustrated with the traditional big tech platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, because they seem sort of fundamentally set against the work of activists, the work of change. And so we sort of developed this vision for a social network that helps people sort of organize in their digital space so that they can come together in the real world. And one of the original features in that social network was an emergency SMS designed to support protester safety.
So an SMS is just like a text message, really, isn't it?
It's just all about making it as easy as possible to remain visible, to stay confident. And it was originally designed to sort of promote participation in direct action. But we spoke to so many students in Cambridge and in other universities who kept saying that they felt actually unsafe in their own communities. And so we thought, okay, we really like this idea for a social network about activists, but actually let's focus down, prioritize on what we're seeing in our own community, which is problems around safety, around visibility, especially people walking home at night after sort of going out. And so we sort of repackaged the app, redeveloped it, and positioned it all around promoting campus safety.
So you've really focused in on that one feature. And I thought, Gabriel, that we could demonstrate how your app works, like right here. So I downloaded it last night. It's called Flare, and there's a few apps around and about called Flare. So if you're interested in this one, look for the icon that's a hand holding up a little blue flame. And then once you've downloaded the app, which took seconds, very, very quick and easy and free, it asks you to put in a phone number for whoever you might want to contact in an emergency. Gabriel, I've put in your phone number, and I'm hoping, therefore, that when I just toggle across this little slidey bar, it should send you a message, should it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so normally I wouldn't be playing on my phone when I've got a guest in the studio. I'm rude, but I'm not that rude. But let's just see what happens when I do this.
There we go, sent to me.
Oh, and
Quick
there
as
you are.
that.
You know where I am. And so what does that tell you? What shows up on your phone when you get the notification?
I've got a text that says, "This is an emergency message from a Flare user. Test from Dotty at BBC Radio Cambridgeshire."
Okay. And then I guess, if this were a real world situation, to give me a call or drop me a message and say, hey, what's up? What's going on?
Absolutely. I've got my emergency set up with one of my friends, and it says, give me a phone call, I need help.
And what real world scenarios has this been used in? What do you hear from people?
Well, so we've got an amazing network of users already around the country, and they're sort of sending me emails. It's great, saying, I just use this to stay confident when I'm going out. It's really a confidence tool. The idea is that you never have to use Flare. It's an app that sits on your phone. You don't have to use it, but it's always there just in case to give you that kind of added level of confidence.
It's a good idea. Gabriel, thank you so much for coming in to talk about it. And don't worry, I will remove your number from my emergency contacts now. I won't be like pinging you when I'm desperate for a taxi after a night out at the pub. It's called Flare, if you're curious and fancy downloading it. And yeah, the icon that you need to look for in the App Store, whether you're on Apple or Android, it's a blue hand holding onto a little flame. One of the creators, Gabriel Brown. 23 minutes to 8. We've also been talking today about this new app that's been created to help students feel safer out and about. It's been put together by a group of graduates in Cambridge. It's called Flare, like a flame that you would send up into the sky, that's how you spell it, or like the trousers that you might have worn in the 70s. It lets you send an instant message to your friends and family if you feel you're in a dicey situation. Ruby Klein is a student and uses it. Hi, Ruby.
Hiya.
Really nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in. Do you see the need for an app like this? Like, does Cambridge sometimes feel like an unsafe place?
I think not necessarily Cambridge specifically, but often the world can feel like quite a scary place. And I think if you as an individual, particularly a young person, I find, are in the situation where you do feel unsafe, the place you go to is your phone. And I do think there's a gap there where people can access emergency services on their phone. But just before that, if they want to prep for perhaps a route that they haven't taken before in an hour that they're not super comfortable with walking outside, they don't quite know where to go. I find that particularly in Cambridge as a student. At university, it's the first time that you don't often have a clear figure of authority to go to who's kind of looking over you.
Yeah, you're on your own, right?
Exactly. And there's so many people who don't quite realise the implications of that until they get to uni. And then they go, oh no, here I am. Where am I going? And by then it's too late. And I think this app is a really useful thing to fill that void by connecting you with people that you know, you're comfortable with, you're happy to go to as figures of safety. But just before or as a preempt, or when you don't quite need emergency services or something as extreme as that.
So just explain how it works, like how you would use it.
So, for example, the way that the app works is before you might, or at least how I use it, before I go out, for example, for the evening where I think I'm going to be coming back quite late, I might set a preemptive text in the app. So you can just set a message. And I would set something along the lines of, I'm going to this place and I expect to be there at this time from this time, and I'm going to be coming home around this time, walking this area.
So that's why it's good that you write the message beforehand, because you can say, I'm going to be at say you're going on a blind date. You can say, I'm meant to be going to this bar with this guy. I've not met him before. If it looks sketchy, then I'm going to drop you a message. You're my emergency contact.
Exactly. And I think the really helpful thing about that is you can send it at any time. It's just on your lock screen. So that's how I have been using it so far. Luckily, I haven't actually had to send that text.
No sketchy guys.
Thank goodness. But it certainly made me feel a lot... I particularly have made my housemates, who love to go on blind dates with sketchy men, download the app themselves, just to make sure that they're in the right place at the right time. And I think the really helpful thing about that is you put as much detail as you possibly can. We'll often put the names of people if you're meeting someone you're not super familiar with, just so that information is there, packaged, available to send, just if you need it.
And do you feel that it really kicks in this kind of time of year, just when it gets dark? So I went out for a walk the other day at 4:30. It's pitch black.
Yeah, definitely. I think particularly, again, talking about kind of the younger students or people who are kind of freshly spending their evenings out, that first winter where you're roaming free from your parents, and yet it's 5 p.m. and suddenly it feels a lot like it's 10 p.m. and you don't quite know where you are or what you're doing. I think it's so crucial there to have these mechanisms in place. So yeah, I definitely think that this is the time of year to keep this on your phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's been created by students and sort of with students in mind, but I can see this being useful for all sorts of people.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was saying before that I think the number one person I think is happy to have this app is my mum.
Oh, is she your emergency contact sometimes?
She's one of them, yeah. It depends, because it's sort of, one of the useful things is I'll set it to my friends if I'm talking about when I'm in Cambridge, but if I'm back in London, then she's the person to go to, and it will also probably go out to some other friends in London. You can kind of just change that about. And as much as, I'm using it in quite a student capacity, I quite appreciate the fact that mutually, I think my mum will probably would have the same thing for me. I know she... If I'm talking about when I'm in Cambridge, but if I'm back in London, then she's the person to go to, and it will also probably go out to some other friends in London. You can kind of just change that about. And as much as, I'm using it in quite a student capacity, I quite appreciate the fact that mutually, I think my mum will probably would have the same thing for me. I know she, roams about the streets of London and
goes out all on her own.
Calls. Exactly. Sometimes she roams about. It's a crazy world. And I think it really does have that. I mean, I particularly think, again, coming from London, I'm very used to a very big city where you often end up on streets you don't know. And I'm very glad that I've had access to this app so that when I go back home, that's still useful to me. And that would be true at any age for particularly women walking in streets late at night, don't quite know where they are, where they're going.
How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how easy it is to download and get set up and use?
Oh, amazingly easy. I actually would have to say 9 or 10 because you don't make an account or anything. I was actually quite surprised by it because you get so used to these days downloading an app and then having to do 14-factor verification and it has to steal your face data and stuff like that. But you don't actually make an account. All you do is put in the numbers of the people you want to send the message to. You put in the message. It stays on your lock screen. I think you have to give it permission to send something through your lock screen. That's it. It was remarkably easy.
Ruby, thank you so much for coming in to see us, and I hope you have a very happy and a very safe festive season.
Thank you so much.
Ruby Klein there, who is a student based in Cambridge. The app is called Flare, in case you want to have a little look on the App Store. It works whether you've got an Apple phone or an Android or whatever. The logo to look for, because there are a few different apps on the market called Flare. For a start, it's free. And secondly, the logo, it's a hand holding up a flame, and the app's colours are blue and white. So depending on the interface, it'll either be a blue background with a white hand holding a white flame, or a white background with a blue hand and a blue flame. Cherry is in the studio. Hello.
Hi.
Do you like the sound of this app?
I do. I love the sound of this app. This is something that's probably very close to my heart as a young woman about town.
Yeah. Cherry Rothwell, young woman about town.